Okay, I have a task for all of you to try. What I want you to do is I want you to lift up your right foot, okay? And then I want to circle your toes in a clockwise motion. Okay, you got that? Clockwise, you got it? Everyone do it? All right. Okay, while you keep doing that, I want you to raise your right hand and then make a big 6 in the air. Notice what your foot does. Okay, keep trying it. Try it again. Do it clockwise with your foot. Clockwise with your foot. And now do a big 6. Ugh. It's actually impossible to do it. No one can do it. It's how our brains are hardwired. Okay, here's the next thing. What I want you to do is, want anybody who has never sinned, stand up. Oh, look around. There's nobody standing. I'm not standing. Actually, it's not that we're all bad people, but we've all done bad things. This church is filled with people who have done bad things. We are exactly the people that Jesus is talking to in the gospel, where he says, would you stop being so phony and pretend that you don't sin? You know the type, the hypocrites, the people who are out there telling other people what they should do, pointing out other people's faults, but then they're not owning anything they do. It's actually impossible to be human and not sin. It's impossible to be a Christian, or specifically a Catholic, and not sin. That does not mean that we should say, wow, then I'm just going to go ahead and sin all I want, since I'm going to sin anyway. No, it doesn't work like that. But we are invited to have our actions match our words. That's what Jesus was talking about again in the gospel. With the older son who said, no, I'm not going to do this, but ends up doing it. Or the other son who says, yep, I'll do this, and then doesn't do it. We all do the same. Think of how many times you have told somebody, like, yep, I'll give you a call. We never do. Or someone asks us to show up to something, and we say, oh, yeah, and we have no intention of showing up to that thing, and we're just not honest with it. It's in those little things, but also big things. Say, like the issue of life. Next Sunday is Pro-Life Sunday. A wonderful time for all of us to really be challenged and look at what's going on. But the problem is, for a lot of us, our words don't match our actions. For most people who profess to be pro-life, they really aren't. They are really pro-birth, which is a great thing. I'm pro-birth. Yes, birth. I'm against abortion. I think we should try to eradicate all abortions. But pro-life is something bigger and deeper than just birth. Cardinal Joseph Bernardine, back in the 1980s, he was the chair of the U.S. Bishop Committee on Pro-Life. He coined the phrase, consistent ethic of life. I mean, if we're really going to be pro-life, we have to be consistent, looking at all issues, womb to tomb, and not just. He says to be pro-life, or like Saint John the 23rd, it was Pope John the 23rd, Saint John the 23rd. He says to be for life means that we have to look at all the issues. Care, youth in Asia, just war, nuclear war, immigration. Like I said, this is immigration weekend. Looking at issues about the environment, care for people of different race, care for those who are poor, care for those women who are even in a situation where they think they must abort, and of course, abortion. What Cardinal Bernardine does, he talks about a seamless garment. So, like this. It's just one garment. There are no seams in it. There's no put together. It's one seamless garment. And he talks to us that says when we look at life issues, we've got to look at all issues together without picking and choosing and say this one's more important than that. Because there are people who will argue that, say that abortion overshadows any other life issue. Because if a child is not allowed to be born, then how can it actually have the conditions of human needs and desires? They're never met. But they're overlooking the fact that there are nearly 8 billion people who have already been born. They're on the planet. And they matter also. Jesus brings home to us the fact that we have to stop just saying some things and not also living them. But none of us can stand and say that, no, we've never sinned. None of us can get this foot thing and the arm thing right. We just can't do it. By ourselves, we can't. But in Christ, we can. Through Christ, it is possible. It's what Paul was talking about in that second reading. Jesus emptied himself so that we can connect with Christ, that we can be filled with Christ, we can stay with Christ. And as Paul continues, you just heard it, he says, so that we can stop just looking at our own interests and start looking at the interests of all. Maybe you're not a tax collector or a prostitute, as Jesus ended the gospel with. But you are a sinner, and I am also. And what we are challenged, invited, demanded to do is not just continue to say good things. Start doing the right things.